It can be a struggle when one has a long-term illness. It eats away not only your physical self, but your mental health. An independent artist is taking the pain of illness and emotional loss and turning it into music. Here's Vivek telling us about his journey and his new release, Around Your Finger.
Hello, I am Vivek Mehmi. I am a music artist out of Mississauga, Ontario. I've been working on music for almost, I want to say like all my life, as a kid, but over the last 3 years, I really got really serious about it. Quit my corporate job, my sales job, and moved out of the city of Toronto back to Mississauga because I was, dealing with a really, really intense health challenge. I woke up one day and just felt really, really lethargic, started developing this crazy skin rash. And prior to that, I was misdiagnosed with a serious liver disease, but they did further testing and it turned out I didn't have that disease. And so I went back to living my life, but then fast forward a couple, like 3-4 years later, and my world collapsed. And I like to think of it as a blessing in disguise because sometimes when these things happen at first, obviously it's extremely uncomfortable, but it really gave me a chance to reconnect with myself during that process. I saw almost 20 plus doctors and couldn't really figure it out. And it really just took, reconnecting to myself, finding some really amazing practitioners that helped me do that and really helped me build awareness in myself. And that's how my music really started to develop, was when I started to get, sick. I started to use it as an outlet, as like therapy, and as a way of really channeling the frustrations. And you can hear about that a lot in my work. And so everything I do is kind of fueled by that journey. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm sure you'll have some questions or something, but that's a nice little intro.
Well, it's great to know that you found an outlet in a music. When we've seen through this entire pandemic of people dealing with depression, anxiety, fear, not just for physical health, but financial stability, having some sort of outlet can go a long way. But in terms of music, it wasn't just this. You kind of had a long relationship with music, fascination with hip hop culture, and musical influences from your brother with various different hip hop and rap R&B artists. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that relationship with music?
When I was a young boy, like I used to, and I think that's like the foundation for like just my creativity and everything that I really love about the hip hop culture is just like the expressive, starting as a kid, I was really into breakdancing culture, right? So it was like you got these elaborate costumes and expressive ways of dealing with oppression and political issues and socio-economic issues. And so I just was really fascinated by the clothing and just how people were moving. It blew my mind at a really young age. So I fell in love with this movie called Electric Boogaloo. Not sure if you're familiar, but there's two breakdancers, Turbo and Ozone. They're quite, and rest in peace to Ozone. But they were quite beloved by the hip hop culture. People used to rap about them. I think they appeared in a lot of pop videos. I think Turbo even did work with Michael Jackson, and that was a huge influence for me as well. I used to, when I was a really young kid, my uncle used to have this really cool studio with tape cassettes and would just say, here's a tape. And I'd go lock myself in the room and just dance and try to break dance for hours and hours. And it was just, it was just a way of using my imagination. One of the scenes in that movie, Turbo is breakdancing on the roof. He climbs the roof and starts breakdancing. And I'm I used to pretend I could do that, right? And I think that's a really huge thing for any artist, is just tap into that imagination where it's just anything's possible. And all the other genres and musical influences you mentioned had the same effect, right? My brother was a lot older than me, like 5 years older than me. So getting access to these like things that's just like, whoa, what's that? Like when you're a kid, right? Because like other people your age might be listening to, I don't know, like Disney or something, and then like you get like this access to something that's a little bit more um progressive or just a little bit more mature. And I was, blown away from that. So I think it's just really tapping into imagination at a really young age, and that was really cool.
So how do you take these interests, these influences, as well as aspects of your life and tie them into a musical project? How do you find your sound?
I'm still working on it, to be honest with you, and it's always evolving. Like one of the things that I really try to embody with my music, and it just is because of what I've gone through with my health, is like sometimes when you go through something so extreme, it gives you this desire to want to be able to be well, right? So that's what I've used to kind of like manifest and like really set my vision, and like I'm gonna be well. I have this picture of myself being well, and when you really start to move in that direction, you realize that a lot of the stuff that maybe you hear from other people, or they teach you in school about health or whatever, is not true, and that you can really overcome a lot of these obstacles. So when you start to really think that like nothing is impossible, then you start to realize, okay, how can I apply that to my art? How can I, and then you start to really grow in a direction that, other people might not have foreseen, and you start to fuse genres. You start to come up with like things that may be not normal to other people, but you're tapping into different aspects that just feel good to you. Really like finding your sound is just being proud of the work you created, and being able to say like, hey, like I'm proud of that, right? And this new song that I'm working on, it really, I've been submitting it to a couple like curators and people like that, and they were like, wow, this is extremely interesting. And I get sometimes people might not dig my voice or something, because it's a pretty unique, like different sounding voice, leaning into that and being like willing to try new things, even when people are like, oh, like I'm not feeling your voice, or that's really interesting, but I'm not there yet, or something. Is just kind of like, just keep following that intuition that allows you to feel good and proud about your work.
Being proud of an accomplishment or completing a project is so important, not only for self, like the personal gratification you get out of it, but in terms of when you're trying to share your music with someone else or get it out there. If you have a positive outlook on it, and even if it doesn't check mark like, oh, this is the Mozart of our generation, or things like that, if you come in with the confidence and it has a story to tell, and it is a reflection of your internal self, people are going to like it. They're going to connect with it. They're going to feel the personal struggles, the triumphs, the joys in there, and they're going to relate it to their own lives. So one of the things is, when we're looking at your new song, Around Your Finger, what are sort of the hopes and emotions you're trying to convey in this piece?
Like I said, I'm trying to heal on various aspects. So like the previous song I did, and that'll also be on the EP, is called Love Myself. And it's really, this whole project is about love. And, a lot of the healing that I've done, obviously, like there's health healing that I talk about in some of my songs, but, really healing also has to do with relationships, and being like aware of how you acted in certain relationships, and how certain relationships had an impact on your identity, and how you attract other relationships, and how you feel about yourself. And, so I really realized, from a couple of patterns and relationships that I was, doing a lot of people pleasing, a lot of, just really not listening to myself and just for the sake of being in a relationship because that's what you think you should do, or you know what I mean, like so people pleasing, that's one of the themes in the song. Codependency, where like I just said, like you just feel like you should be there and like you need this feeling of fulfillment. So that's kind of where it came from. And a lot of the work that I've done in the past has been kind of heavy and like serious in a sense. Not all of it. There's some like kind of feel good songs and uplifting songs as well. But just recently, just like my approach to things was kind of like really intense. I could be really intense in that way. And I was like, you know what? I need to kind of find a way to channel this in a lighthearted way. Especially like, I talked to you about the health. I've also really tapped into spirituality, which you might be able to see from my background. And I just thought it was a way that I could connect with people that was way more relatable. So I fused, different genres. And like I said, I was a big fan of 80s music and retro culture. So I pulled from certain themes of there. Like I was really influenced by like the David Bowie horns and Let's Dance, kind of like in this track. And then I also, a little bit of funk, a little bit of R&B, a little bit of sing rappy and just allowed myself to explore and create. And that's what this is what happened.
I think people will really appreciate that change in tone. And of course, there's nothing wrong with getting serious, solemn sometimes to, discuss pain, discuss the tragedies in one's life. But as we're seeing in the world today, with all the struggles, climate emergencies, socioeconomical issues, racism, discrimination, we're in the middle of Pride Month and Indigenous History Month, and there's still human rights that people need and we need to fight for. But when all of that gets into your head, I know for myself, sometimes I can get a little bit into a doomer mindset. And when things are all crushing around you, you feel like, what's the point? But I really appreciate what you're trying to do in your song of trying to tell things in a different light. Even if things are a challenge or things are bad, it doesn't mean you can't do something about it. Small baby steps, right? Like getting involved in a community. These are all things I want to do. And I really appreciate what you're doing in your music, talking about the healing, the growth, and it's really cool things. And more June 17th, you've got more coming out with relationships.
Around Your Finger is that? Like, I'm actually putting the project out in pieces. Like I kind of, a lot of the independent artists and what I've learned from my past projects, and instead of like really dropping one big project, just to put it out in pieces. So Around Your Finger is the first release on June 17th. And then we're going to do a couple more throughout the summer and throughout the fall kind of. And that's what relationships is about. I had this one line in an old song about like friendships. And I was like, oh, like it's such a nice play on words because like I said, I've had a lot of challenges in my relationships. So I see a lot of my relationships sailing away. And what can I learn from all these relationships is, like, how can I use it to heal and heal that part of me that will allow me to create better, stronger relationships moving forward. So yeah, like there's one song, so that's Around Your Finger. And then I have another song that's actually being mixed now called Fulfill You. And again, it's a bit of a genre mashup, a little bit more poppy and R&B kind of vibes with a little bit of electro vibes. And then I do a little bit of, I want to do an instrumental that is ready to be mixed as well. And that'll kind of follow suit in the project because sometimes, I don't know, like I feel like sometimes music doesn't need words or something like that. And you just need to, allow yourself to express yourself in different ways. And then I have another track. So that's all of these songs, to be honest with you, are not like any of my past releases. So I don't know, a lot of people say, oh, you need to find your genre, but I think if anyone's been following me and like my followers, they just understand that I'm on this like wave of wanting to create new things. So hopefully that resonates with people, and people check out
I really
relationships.
like that. The staggered approach to releasing music. It makes it feel more like an event than not just this one time thing. It's something you can experience over a season or a set amount of time, almost like anthology series. In my experience as a movie and
Right.
show a nerd, what was it on Netflix? I think it was called The House. It was kind of it told the story of this house from three very different perspectives, and it was so fun. Just the mashup of genres, the mashup of mediums to tell a cohesive story, but with small independent stories in between as well. And I really like what you're doing within music because it kind of scratches that itch for me. This change, because things can feel stagnant so quickly, and especially when things are just being turned out like one after the next. So something new and exciting, different can really challenge the different parts
Yeah,
of your
absolutely.
brain.
And it's interesting you mentioned that, because like I think we also just have to try new things, right? With releases, and with as being independent artists, it's like sometimes we get in our own heads, we see what other people are doing, and we're like, I need to do that. Or you see like a YouTuber or music industry YouTuber talking about, what worked, and we're like, okay, we have to gravitate to that. But then I realized, like, just like when you're creating the art, there's really no right or wrong way to do it. It's just like, how can you, and I'm still learning this, to be honest with you, Ryan. I'm like trying to figure out the best way to engage with my fans and followers. And so for instance, with these releases, I've started doing some poetry. And like, so if you go to my Instagram, if you go to my YouTube, you'll see myself on like the backdrop of a silhouette of a woman doing some poetry, like, and that serves as a prelude to this upcoming release. And it's just like, it allows me to tap into a different, visual. It allows me to tap into different content. And I think it's just like linking the two and just allowing people to get excited. A lot of the things I've also realized is there's a really cool, which I didn't get a chance to talk about, but I work with, because of the pandemic, I met a videographer in Latvia through Fiverr, and we did one project together. But then I was like, okay, this guy is like really on my creative like wavelength, and I think, and I'm sure you can attest to that, when you find someone who's like on your creative wavelength, it just like you're just so excited that someone shares your vision or can bring your art to a new medium that just like really allows you to access different engagement and different visual. So anyways, he's currently doing, I don't want to give too much away, but since we're connecting so well, and like I really love your vibe, I'm gonna, let's spill a bit of it. It's like, I'm not sure if you know about the have you seen any Action Bronson green screen, or any Mac Miller posthumous kind of like his work? So
Yeah.
we've got like a green screen, and there's a little bit of
Okay.
so I won't go too much into it, but like some themes around ships, and it gets kind of weird, and it's really abstract, and it kind of,
I can dig it. I can dig
yeah, it's
it.
gonna be fun. It's gonna be really, really fun. So I've also learned, to try and peak engagement and get people interested, to like drop some behind the scenes. So in the next couple, we're almost a week and a half out till the drop, but yeah, I'm gonna leak some of the behind the scenes and try and spice it up. But yeah, it should be fun.
As an independent artist, it can be a challenge to get your content out there, to find a following, to build up interest. What are some of the other challenges that you're facing as an independent creator trying to get into the music industry, which is incredibly cutthroat?
So some of the challenges are like I mentioned before, just seeing how other people are doing it and trying to find your own way. And I think a lot of it to this far, even with my own journey, is just like kind of like trusting that I'm on the right path and like building that spiritual connection to allow me to kind of become more resilient. And so I think we're all human, right? And we all go through challenges of feeling inadequate, feeling that we're lesser than, or our art's not being heard. Sometimes, you know, for instance, I'll give you an example. Like I just the other day I got news yesterday actually that I didn't get this grant for this project, and I was kind of banking on it. And I think that's a challenge, and it's an opportunity to learn, right? Any challenge you have or any disappointment you have is an opportunity to learn. And had a great conversation with my friend Dante. It was just like, you know, act like you don't have it, so maybe when you get it, it's like a surprise. But when you put all your eggs in one basket, you're like, you set yourself up for disappointment. So I think learning from that moving forward will be huge. But, you know, I was like, oh, I even had a friend who's a grant writer, and I hired him to like overlook it. I put together like all like the, you know, fine tuning. So I'm just like really expecting this thing. And when it doesn't come, you're just like, oh, now what? Like now you got to pick yourself up. And I think that's the thing is just finding ways to be resourceful. And even when someone says no, or you get a lot of no's, is finding a way to still move through with your art and find a way to get it out there, no matter if it's, you know, like maybe it's not as epic or it's not as big or what you pictured in your mind, but still get it out there, because you don't know who's going to connect with it. You don't know where it's going to end up with, you know. You might get a chance to connect with someone like Ryan, you know, who knows, you know. It's like, it's just like one of those things.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Vivek, talking with you, learning more about you, and keep up the good work. Keep challenging yourself, thinking outside the box, because that's what I think. For individuals like myself, what I think is people want authenticity. They want to see someone's true self in their work and their art, and not have this corporate veneer put over top of it. So keep it up, and I'm excited to see some of the works that are coming out June 17th. So where can people go to find out more about yourself and your music?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. So if you just go to vivekmehmi.com, there should be like links to all like the music, media, all kinds of fun stuff like blog, etc. And then it's at Vivek Mehmi on all socials, and at Vivek Mehmi Music on YouTube and TikTok. Sorry, you guys gotta think about all like the social plugs now. It's like like that's how people engage. So yeah, I would love to connect with you. I'm mostly on IG, Instagram, and stories and all kinds of fun stuff there. So
if you have any stories you'd like us to share or communities we should highlight, leave a comment on our social media or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.